Good evening. Welcome to today's session of the book reading of the New Path. As always, we will start with a prayer and a chant. Sitting up straight, bringing our hands in front of our hearts in Namaste, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows, invoking the presence of God and Gurus here with us. Let's pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. Dear Master, guide us, bless us. May we live this life, may every aspect of our life be a service to God and Gurus. May we live, serve with the right attitude on this spiritual journey to find God. We are thine, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti. Pausing here for a moment, tuning into this chant, the words of this chant, calling out to God and Gurus, affirming with every breath, with every cell of our being, I want only thee, Lord, thee only thee. May this be our constant prayer affirmation throughout the day, even as we go about our lives, doing our worldly duties. At the back of our mind, may this be our constant prayer. May this be our constant affirmation. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. Even as the Maya, delusional world, the desires try to pull us away, may we always hold on to this affirmation day in, day out. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. So the last chapter, we have been going through all these chapters, and every chapter gives us so many takeaways. Sometimes it's difficult to remember, but it's worthwhile to go back to that every day, through the week. Just mark in your note, in your book, or write it down and go back to it. What did that chapter teach us? What is Master trying to tell us through this chapter? So as Swamiji said that in the last chapter, it was teachings are individual. Each one of us have our own trajectory, our own journey to God. So, and the Guru guides. So, what works for one person, though everything is the same, it leads to the same, but depending on our temperament, on where we are in our journey, He will guide us. And there is this constant guidance that will keep happening. It's not like, okay, I got this guidance and then I just go, on that path. Always to keep, checking back with God and Gurus. Is this right? Is this right? So, attunement is a very important aspect on the spiritual journey. Right? Now that we get into work versus meditation, again, it's a very there's a lot of takeaways in this also. A very important one is the attitudes. Swamiji always used to say attitudes are very important on the spiritual path. So let us first hear Swamiji reading this chapter, and then we will discuss and try to understand this chapter.
Chapter 25, Work versus Meditation. Master once taught me a good lesson on the attitude we should hold toward our work. Mrs. Vera Brown, later Mira Mata, an advanced older disciple whom Master had made responsible for training some of the newer ones, was sharing with me a few of her experiences with our Guru. "You work too hard," Master told me one day. "You must work less. If you don't, you will ruin your health." Very well, I thought, I'll try not doing so much. 2 or 3 days later, to my surprise, Master gave me more work to do. Mrs. Brown's eyes twinkled. "Okay, Master," I thought, "you must know what you're doing." I took on my new duties, but all the time I kept wondering, how am I going to reconcile all this extra work with his instruction to me to work less? Well, a couple of days after that, Master again told me, more sternly this time, "You must not work so hard. In this lifetime you've done enough work for several incarnations." What was I to do? Again I tried cutting down my activities, only to find Master after 2 or 3 days giving me more work than ever. We repeated this little comedy several times. Every time Master told me to work less, he soon thereafter added duties that forced me to work more. I figured he must know what he was doing, and that it was up to me to try and understand what that was. Well, finally, one day I looked at Master. "Sir," I said, Instead of using the word work in our life here, why do we substitute the word service? Master laughed. It has been a good show, he said. All your life you've been thinking work, work, work. That very thought was exhausting you. But just see how differently you feel when you think of work as a divine service. When you act to please God, you can do twice as much and never feel tired. Mrs. Brown, whose frail body never seemed to run out of energy, no matter how much she did, laughed merrily. You see, the very thought of pleasing God fills us with His energy. Master tells us it is our unwillingness that cuts off the flow of energy. True, I replied thoughtfully. As often as I've put that principle to practice, I've found it works marvelously. But, I continued, there's another obstacle I run into, that of being too willing. What can one do about that? How can one be too willing? Well, what I mean is I become over-enthusiastic about what I'm doing. As a result, I lose my inner peace and fall into the old consciousness of hard work, which ends in exhaustion. I see. Mrs. Brown nodded sympathetically. That's right. Without inner peace, we lose the consciousness of God's presence. And if we can't feel Him within us, we can't really feel His energy. Again she laughed merrily. Master taught me a good lesson on that subject, too. He was cooking one day in his kitchen. I was there in the room with him. For lack of anything better to do, I decided I'd clean up after him. The moment he emptied one pan, I'd wash it. Whenever he spilled anything, I cleaned up the mess. Well, he began dirtying pans and more pans, spilling food and more food. I was working faster and faster to keep up with him. In my whole life I'd never seen such sloppy cooking. At last I just gave up. It occurred to me that I might as well wait till he was finished before I did any more. As I sat down to watch him, I noticed a little smile on his face, though he said nothing. Presently I saw he wasn't messing things up any more. Finally it dawned on me that he'd only been teaching me the difference between calm, God-reminding activity and the sort of restlessness that one indulges in just for activity's sake. I'd been working in a spirit of busyness. Master's way of showing me my mistake was to lead me to its own logical conclusion. I myself learned in time to make inner peace my bottom line. No matter how many calls I have had on my energies, I have never allowed them to bring me to the point where my inner peace became threatened. The spiritual path would, one suspects, be relatively easy to understand if it involved only meditation, ecstatic visions, and a blissful expansion of consciousness. Why, one asks, must it be complicated by mundane activities like ditch digging and letter writing and cleaning up kitchens? One may sympathize, on one level at least, with that reluctant disciple on the day we completed the swimming pool at 29 Palms, who grumbled, "I didn't come here to pour cement." Many a sincere devotee, too, has probably wondered what pouring cement, or digging ditches, or writing letters, or cleaning up kitchens has to do with finding God. The answer is, quite simply, nothing. Not in itself, anyway. Master once told the story of a man who placed $100 bill in the collection plate at church, then was upset because God didn't answer his prayer. Laughingly, Master commented, God already was that $100 bill, whether in or out of the collection plate. Why should he care where it was placed? The realm of Maya, cosmic delusion, is like the surface of an ocean. No matter how high the waves are whipped by the storm, the overall ocean level remains the same. God doesn't need anything that we can give him. He already is everything. The one thing he wants from us, Master said, is our love. The purpose of spiritual work, then, is not really to do things for God, but rather to do the most important thing of all for ourselves, to purify our own hearts. No work for God is more or less important than any other. The Bhagavad Gita states that he accepts even a flower or a leaf as an offering, if it is tendered with devotion. The important thing is to reach the point where all our love, all our energy flows naturally toward him. Meditation, too, is a kind of work. True, it differs from such labor as digging ditches, but then so also does mental planning. And who will say that planning is less truly work than the physical execution of plans? Even in the animal kingdom, mental ability is often more highly regarded than brute force. Witness a group of dogs playing together. Usually it's the brightest one, not the largest, that the others follow. Meditation is the most refined and exalted of all mental activities. From it have come the greatest inspirations. If one could meditate deeply all day, there would be no need for a person seeking divine communion to dig ditches or to do any other work, whether physical or mental. The criterion, of course, is that word, deeply. When Mrinalini Mata, already disciple when she was still a young schoolgirl, met Master at the breakfast table one day, he remarked to her, "You didn't meditate this morning." "Sir," she protested, "I meditated a whole hour." Master, quite unimpressed, replied, "You should have meditated half an hour." He had seen that in sitting longer, when not in a mood that day to meditate with intensity, she had actually done less effective meditation. Intensity is everything, intensity of awareness. Superconsciousness cannot be attained by half-hearted efforts. You must be calmly active and actively calm, Master said. Be intensely aware of everything you are doing. Work on the spiritual path is a means of helping one to channel his energies constantly, dynamically, toward God. Make every minute count, Master said. The minutes are more important than the years. People who put their whole concentration into working for God find they can also meditate more deeply. When you work for God, not self, Master told us one day, that is just as good as meditation. Then work helps your meditation, and meditation helps your work. You need the balance. With only meditation you become lazy, and the senses become strong. With only work, the mind becomes restless and you forget God. Master taught us to consider any work holy that we did to please God. To keep his minister disciples from imagining that their work of teaching and counseling was more spiritual than that of other disciples who served in the gardens, he gave them manual labor to do also. On that weekend when Master first sent me to San Diego to lecture, I got a valuable lesson from Karl Swenson, later Brother Sharolananda, a fellow disciple in Encinitas. "Look at my hands," I lamented. "They're all seamed with cement. People will think I didn't bother to wash them." "What do you mean?" protested Karl. "They're your badge of honor." Master taught us not only to offer our work moment by moment to God, but also to see God acting through us as the real doer. "I slept," he said once, "and dreamt I was working. I woke up and saw God was working." Action in this spirit wasn't intended to make us automatons. I remember thinking halfway through a sermon one Sunday morning, if God really is the doer, why not mentally remove myself from the scene altogether and wait for him to speak through me? There ensued 2 minutes of silence. Friends in the audience thought I must have frozen from nervousness. But to me this pause was simply an interesting experiment. I concluded at last that God had no intention of speaking for me. His was simply the inspiration for my words. My job was to draw on that inspiration. To see God as the doer, then, means recognizing that it is by His energy and inspiration that we live. It means not taking personal credit for anything we do. This attitude keeps one humble and also vastly increases one's powers of accomplishment. Master instructed me to pray to God and our gurus before every lecture and ask them to use me as their instrument to express what they wanted me to say. Humility, alas, is not easy to acquire. After working some months on developing it, I awoke one morning to the realization that I was becoming proud of my humility. In working to develop devotion, too, I discovered that I was becoming pleased with myself for feeling it. Master's comment, "If you love yourself, how can you love God?" The real secret of humility, I came gradually to realize, is self-honesty. To see everything in its right proportion to everything else reduces the chances of one's taking oneself or anything else too seriously. As Sister Ganamata once remarked to Bernard, after he'd thanked her for the spiritual help she had lovingly given him over the years, "It is the nature of a fig tree to bear figs." Her words revealed the humility of perfect detachment, that is to say, again, perfect self-honesty. Master, in his effort to break us of half-hearted willingness, what he called one-horsepower energy, urged us always to keep a positive outlook and to affirm possibilities rather than weaken them with too many so-called reasonable objections. I remember his greeting to me one day. "How are you, Walter?" "Well," I began. "That's good," he interposed promptly, nipping in the bud what he saw was only a mild case of vapors. Never supportive of us in our moods, he urged us to banish them firmly with vigorous, positive affirmations. "I suffer when you have moods," he said once, "for then I see that Satan gets a hold of you." Faye, when she was 17, was inclined to be somewhat moody. "If you want to be unhappy," Master once said to her, "no one in the world can make you happy. And if you determine to be happy, no one in the world will be able to make you unhappy." She once told me Master wouldn't even allow us to be around him when we had moods. Moods weren't often my specific problem, but I remember one that ambushed me one day, and the helpful method I discovered for combating it. It was in February or March 1949. Master had been away from Mount Washington several weeks, and I hadn't seen him in all that time. I was beginning to feel his absence keenly. Finally he returned. The next day word came down to me to get someone to carry a 5-gallon bottle of drinking water up to his kitchen. Eagerly I appropriated the job to myself. Arriving upstairs with the bottle, I could hear Master dictating a letter in his sitting room. Hoping to attract his attention, I rattled the bottle and made as much noise as I felt I decently could for a job that called for a minimum of tumult. Master paid no attention. He doesn't care that I miss him, I thought, plunging suddenly into a violent depression. I'm just a worker to him, not a disciple. I rushed on to brood over the unfeeling nature of this world where nobody really cares for anyone else. Moments later I made an abrupt about-face. No, Master cares, but he sees I'm such a hopeless case that he figures he might as well give up pouring water into this bottomless pit. On and on my mind churned. I tried reasoning with myself. Look here, he's obviously busy. Why should he drop everything just for you? Yeah, retorted my recalcitrant mind. I imagine he said, "Look out, here comes that worthless disciple, Walter. Quick, let me dictate a letter as an excuse not to have to call him in here." Clearly, reason wasn't going to pull me out of my mental whirlpool. Indeed, reason's tendency is to support any feeling that happens to be uppermost in the mind. "Do you like being moody?" I demanded of my mental citizens. "No," came the chorus, unanimously except for one or two grumblers in the background. "Very well then, boys, if reason won't do it, let's see if changing our level of consciousness will do the trick." I went down to my meditation cave, and there plunged my mind deeply at the Christ center between the eyebrows. 5 minutes was all it took. By the end of that time my mood was so uplifted and positive that I no longer needed to affirm anything. But of course he's busy, I thought. Hasn't he told us often that our real communion with him is inside in meditation? And what if all his disciples tried selfishly to take up his time? He wouldn't have any time left over to complete his writings, which will help thousands. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Master wrote, "Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. We don't create them, we only receive them, depending on our level of consciousness." "Sir," someone once asked Master, "what causes moods?" "Moods," he replied, "are caused by past overindulgence in sense pleasures, and consequent oversatiety and disgust. If you indulge your moods," he added warningly, "you will reinforce the mind's swing back again toward sense pleasures. For that is how the law of duality works. It moves constantly back and forth like a pendulum between opposite states of awareness. If by not giving in to moods you remove energy from one end of the pendulum's swing, you will find the hold that the senses have on you at the opposite end will be weakened as well." I learned in another way, too, how important it is not to indulge one's mental tendencies too freely. For some time during my first year at Mount Washington, I was disturbed by periods of almost obsessive sleepiness during meditation. I no sooner sat for meditation than my head began to nod. One day I felt particularly joyful inside, and was eagerly looking forward to that evening's meditation. To my immense disgust, however, the moment I sat to meditate, drowsiness descended on me once again. Like a dense fog, I was furious with myself. "Since you insist so much on sleeping," I scolded my mind, "I'm not going to let you sleep at all." I stayed up all that night, typing letters, walking about the grounds, drinking tea, anything to beat down my insistent craving for sleep. When daylight came, I went out of doors and worked hard in the garden. By the following evening my mind had become so submissive, terrified, I imagine, lest I abuse it with sleeplessness a second night, that my meditative drowsiness ceased completely, and didn't return again for many months. I worked as hard at meditation as I did during the day at my various jobs. Too hard, Master once told me. In meditation you should place more emphasis on relaxation. I soon learned that the adage, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," is as true for spiritual as for mundane expectations. During my Saturday meditations, I had been going deeper and deeper into inner stillness. Just a little more effort, I began to think, and surely I'll slip into full superconsciousness. One Saturday morning I entered my cave with the determination not to stop meditating until this goal had been achieved. For 9 hours I sat, continuously applying every ounce of willpower I could summon. In the end, exhausted, I had no choice but to admit defeat. If I had stopped short of exhaustion, I might have avoided discouragement and salvaged enough confidence to keep on trying over successive Saturdays. As it was, however, though I continued to meditate regularly, months passed before I was able again to make a really deep effort. It was from this very failure, in fact, that my obsession with drowsiness began. Yet even now there were compensations, at times deep joy, during moments of inner stillness, and increasing devotion, and blissful inner sounds, one particularly that resembled wind in the trees. Master urged us not to talk about our meditative experiences, so I prefer to keep the most precious of them locked in my heart. I worked hard to develop devotion, chanting, and praying daily for the grace of intense love for God. Master one day smiled at me lovingly. "Keep on with your devotion," he said. "See how dry your life is when you depend on intellect." His help was available to anyone who called to him mentally in meditation. Here he was the guide, ever subtly inspiring us, according to the measure of our receptivity, to make the right kind of spiritual effort. Sometimes, too, when we met him during the day, he would admonish us on some point concerning our meditations. Indeed, he watched over us in all ways. It never ceased to amaze me that with so many disciples to look after, he could be so perfectly aware of the needs of each one. "I go through your souls every day," he told us. "If I see something in you that needs correcting, I tell you about it. Otherwise, I say nothing." On another occasion he said, "I have lived the lives of each one of you. Many times I go so deep into a person at night that when I wake up in the morning I think I am that person. It can be a terrible experience if he is someone full of moods and desires." Mrs. Michelle Evans, that lady I initiated into Kriya Yoga in San Diego, told me, "I used to drink, not much, but the way most people do, to be sociable. When I met Master, he told me to give it up. So for a while I took nothing alcoholic at all. But then I got to thinking, surely beer doesn't count, does it? Or wine? I mean, they really aren't in the same class with whiskey, rum, and brandy, are they? So I went back to drinking beer or wine occasionally. It gave me less explaining to do when we had guests. Well, the next time I saw Master at the San Diego church, he looked at me sort of penetratingly and said, "I meant all alcoholic beverages." Well, since then, what choice have I got? Any time I slept, he'd know about it. Jan Savage, a young boy of 9 who had come to Mount Washington with his mother, was meditating one day with Daniel Boone when he had a vision of Jesus Christ. Thrilled, he told Boone about it afterwards. "It could be your imagination," Boone said. "Better say nothing more until you ask Master about it." Master, who was away at that time, returned to give the service the following Sunday. Afterwards, Jan joined the line of devotees that always waited to come forward for Master's blessings. As he approached, Master reached out and tousled his hair affectionately. "So," he cried, "little Jan had a vision of Jesus Christ. That's very good. That was a true vision." Boone told me in February of an experience he too had had after keeping his mind steadfastly on Master for 2 days. He was given a kind of ecstasy in which he was quite unable to feel his body, even while he moved about, performing his daily duties in the print shop. "I had to pray finally that I'd be able to feel my body again," he said. "I was afraid that I might harm it in the machinery." Well, I thought, that was for me. More eager for the experience itself, I'm afraid, than for humble attunement with my Guru. I kept my mind on Master one-pointedly. He was in Encinitas at the time. 2 or 3 days later he returned to Mount Washington. I met him by the front porch as he arrived. "What sort of mischief are you up to, Walter?" He smiled significantly. None, sir. Mischief? It didn't seem like mischief to me. Are you sure you aren't up to some kind of mischief? I began to understand what he meant, but was reluctant to accept his definition of what I'd been doing. As he was going indoors, he smiled lovingly, saying, "Goodbye, Walter." Thinking the matter over, I had to admit to myself that while my practice had been right, my intentions had been wrong. Don't seek experiences in meditation, Master told us. The path to God is not a circus. More touching was the experience of another disciple, Reverend Michael, who, feeling deep love for Master, would often repeat the words mentally, "I love you, Guru." One day Master responded to his silent offering. The two of them happened to meet in the hermitage garden at Encinitas. With a gaze of deep tenderness, the Guru said, "I love you too." Master responded instantly to sincere love. One day, missing him intensely, I went down to see him in Encinitas, where he was staying at the time. Shortly after my arrival, he passed a group of us on his way back from a drive. Seeing me, he invited me to ride up with him to the hermitage. "I have missed you," he told me lovingly. How rare it is, I thought, for one's unexpressed feelings to be intuited so sensitively. Master's help was with us not only in our inner spiritual struggles, but in our work as well. One day Norman and I were replastering the wall of a garage by the main entrance to the Mount Washington grounds. The plaster was old and was setting up fast. Though we kept on adding water, we had all we could do to complete each batch before it hardened completely. Halfway through the job, Master, on his way out for a drive, saw us and stopped the car. Calling us over to him, he chatted with us for about half an hour. We were delighted, of course. Yet at the back of our minds there lurked a slight apprehension. What about that plaster? I had just mixed a fresh batch and poured it onto the board, and there it was, getting harder by the second. By the time Master left us, both Norman and I were certain it would take a sledgehammer to break up the plaster. To our amazement, however, we found it as soft and pliable as it had been when I poured it. For the rest of that day the plaster gave us no trouble at all. Hard work was as important to our way of life as regular meditation. You must be intensely active for God, Master said, before you can attain the actionless state of union with Him. More than either work or meditation, however, was the stress he placed on the importance of devotion. Without love for God, he told us, no one can find Him. Nightly I chanted Master's translation of a song by the great Bengali saint Ramprasad. Will that day come to me when saying, "Mother, Mother, my eyes will flow with tears"? Gradually I found myself becoming transformed inwardly. I began to feel that I had some cause for self-congratulation when one day word came to me that Master had been talking with a group of the monks in Encinitas. During the course of the conversation he had remarked lovingly, "Changed Walter." Chapter 26, The Ministry.
Can't hear you, Chanti.
Can't hear.
Can't hear. Okay. No. No sound.
Now am I audible?
Now, yeah, now I can hear.
Yes.
Is this better? Hello? Can you hear? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can hear, can hear.
Okay. Okay, let me talk from this then. Okay, so as I was mentioning, um, that story that she tells about where she's thinking of her seva as work. Am I visible from two places? No, no. Okay, so
Yeah.
she thinks of her seva, her service as work, right? So in the process, master is trying to teach her something, right? That the more we think of it, you're muted now. I'm not able to hear again. Am I able? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you.
Okay. So there are two, three things here with the different stories that Mrs. Brown tells. One is there is this when there was this unwillingness in her. So that kind of blocked the energy, right? So he's saying when she realized, when he kept giving work, more work, and then she realized, oh, there is something wrong. I should look at it as a seva, as service. And master said that's the right way. Uh, Just see how differently you feel when you think of work as a divine service. When you act to please God, he said, you can do twice as much and never feel tired. Now, when this he's talking not only about only the work that we do, I mean the seva we do at the center for the for our path, but where what he's trying to say, anything that we do, any work, even our worldly work, the moment we shift the attitude, it becomes, I mean, we can look even the work we are doing, the job we are doing, if we look at it as a service to God, when people who the subordinates who are working, I mean, I'm working to make sure that, the families are taken care of. And it is a service. The moment we shift our attitude, it stops being work and it becomes service to God. Every aspect of it, that is why this path of Kriya Yoga, Master said it is a way of life where every aspect of our lives should reflect in that way. Everything that we do is an offering to God, right? So then the next one, when she says the very thought of pleasing God fills us with his energy, right? Master tells us our unwillingness is what cuts off this flow of energy. So which is true, right? Master, when he gave us the energization exercise, the main one of the main axioms is greater the will, greater the flow of energy. And when we are saying will, it is not the grim will. What he's talking about is willingness. The more we do it willingly, the greater is the flow of energy. So here Swamiji puts a very important point. He says, okay, what if I become too over enthusiastic, right? In that case, as a result, I lose my inner peace and fall into the old consciousness of hard work, which ends in exhaustion. So she says, yeah, without inner peace, we lose the consciousness of God's presence. If we can't feel Him within us, we can't really feel His energy, right? And again, she tells the next story. So here we are talking about three different things. One, Master is telling that once, I mean, you have unwillingness, then you cut off the flow of energy.
So willingness is, it increases the flow of energy. But again, when we are too much willing to the thing that you're trying to do, two things uh, in a hurry, or wanting to do that, you get exhausted. Again, you're cutting off. There is no inner peace. You are restless in wanting to do something, and again you are cutting off. So it is very important that how, it's not just what am I doing, but how am I doing it. So this is very interesting story Swamiji also talks about, where in which happened with Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ came to the house of these sisters Martha and Mary, and when he comes, he's sitting and he's giving his uh, lecture or whatever, pravachan, satsang, and Mary is sitting at his feet. Martha is busy, because she has to feed everyone, all the devotees who have come. And then she's working up, she starts feeling like, I'm doing everything. Mary is sitting, she's not helping me. She goes up to Jesus and says, Jesus, why don't you tell her, I'm doing everything. Mary is just sitting like this, which all sisters feel, when the other sister is not doing. But Jesus said, Martha, Martha. He says that what Mary has shall not be taken away from her. Swamiji says that, Jesus being a compassionate person, and what Martha was doing was an important thing. I mean, so many people have come, they have to be fed. So somebody has to do the work. There is seva that somebody has to do, right? And Mary wasn't doing. But at the end of it, Jesus Christ has come to her house. The avatar has come, and it's such a blessing for Martha to serve him. Yet, how was she feeling? She was getting worked up because Mary was not helping. So Jesus said, what Mary has shall not be taken away from her. So Swamiji in his commentary says that Jesus is very compassionate. He would have probably told, we don't know what happened after that, but I'm sure he would have told Mary to go help her sister. But the whole point he was saying, Mary was sitting, she was completely calm, there was inner peace. So what she has shall not be taken away from her. So very important as we serve, as we do any work, as we are, serving our family, how we are doing it. Oh, it's all my job, everything I'm doing. Or, we think of the family members as, God is expressing through them. And we are serving God through, through these people. So the whole point is, as we do our work, as we do our seva, uh, the attitude with which we are doing is the most important part. And Swamiji says, I myself learned in time to make inner peace my bottom line. Bottom line. He also said in one of his talk that if a work was very important, some work that needed to be, some project that needed to be done, and which was very important for keeping Ananda's this thing going. But he said, if it disturbed my inner peace, I would drop it. He took it, keeping that inner peace, as he's saying, I made it my bottom line. So if it was disturbing him, he would drop it for the time being. That much importance he gave to inner peace, right? He says, no matter how many calls I have had on my energies, I have never allowed them to bring me to the point where my inner peace became threatened. One, again here, he says that, when the some people will feel ki, I have come to the spiritual path, I want to meditate, I want to chant. Why do I have to keep doing this? Like how that monk, when they were all taken to 29 palms and they had to make that swimming pool. All the other monks were doing, and this particular monk kept saying, I didn't come here to do this. So he kept grumbling, right? And he says many a sincere devotee had probably wondered what pouring cement, digging ditches, writing letters have to do to find God. He says nothing, not in itself anyway. So, and anyway, I mean, seriously, even here, when we serve uh, for the Guru, the work needs to be done. If we don't place ourselves to do that work, somebody else will do it. The work will be done. Master will, if the work has to uh, happen, he will make it happen, right? somebody or the other will do it. It's better that we place ourselves there. It is for ourselves. Why? He says the purpose of spiritual work is then not really to do things for God. I mean, seriously, who are we to do things for God? No, he says rather to do the most important thing of all for ourselves, to purify our hearts. This is an important thing Swamiji is pointing out. When we do seva at the center, or serving the Guru, it's very important that everything that I'm doing is actually for myself, cleaning our hearts, purifying our. The more we do with that act with a self offering to God and Gurus, the more we are cleansed. So the attitude of seva is the most important. He says no work for God is more or less important than any other. So it doesn't matter what we are doing. We might just be pushing and pulling chairs, washing dishes. Doesn't matter. That is why in the future thing one, I mean, next page we see that master used to make the teachers do the manual job, so that that spiritual ego doesn't come like, oh, I'm doing something very important, I'm teaching. No, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It really doesn't matter. Again, how you're doing is important. If you know that spiritual ego comes that I'm doing something very important, master will teach lessons to bring that out down. So because we are here, I mean, every if we have offered ourselves to be disciplined, to be led on this path, he will not miss any opportunity to break that ego. So it's very important to understand that. He says meditation too is a kind of work. True, it differs from such labors as digging ditches, but then so also does mental planning. So everything is an offering, it's a kind of work. Meditation is the most refined and exalted of all mental activity. From it have come the greatest inspirations. If one could meditate deeply all day long, I mean, somebody is in samadhi full day, 24 hours, then there is no need for a person seeking divine communion to dig ditches. Then we don't need to do any. Sri Yukteswar said in his book Holy Science that if as long as you are breathing the free air of this world, you are under obligation to offer grateful service. When it's important that we have to offer, as long as we are breathing. Somebody who is in samadhi, he's in a breathless state, so he doesn't have to, he's free. But till we are, it's imperative, it is our obligation to offer grateful service. So even if we are okay, serving on the path, serving God and Guru, or generally serving outside people, we can't say, oh, I am serving this world, I am doing. No, even that has to be a grateful offering of that service. We have to feel grateful that I'm being offered this opportunity to serve, right? So then he goes on to talk about meditation itself. He says the criteria. So when he's saying if one could meditate deeply all day, deeply, he says, is the criteria. And that Mrinalini Mata's story where she said, oh, I've been meditating for 1 hour. He said, oh, you should have meditated for half an hour, because she wasn't deep enough. The mind was restless. No point. So he said, intensity. There are so many points here on the next page. Intensity is everything. Intensity of awareness. Super consciousness cannot be attained by half-hearted efforts. Second point, you must be calmly active, actively calm, which means in every aspect of our life. So it's not just meditation. Oh, I was very calm in my meditation, and then I get up, and then we are not meditating 24 hours. So rest of the day, whatever we are doing, if we are getting restless, we are getting into moods, we are getting agitated. It's not. He says work on the spiritual path is a means of helping one to channelize his energy constantly, dynamically toward God. Anytime that energy is coming down, it's moving away from God. We have to be very careful. Moods. That's why Master, in the next 2 pages, we're talking about moods. Master is talking, don't get into moods. moods is like bringing that energy down. It flows away from God. We are getting, it's into a negative thing. It's moving away from God. He says, make every minute count, not only in meditation, but in every aspect of our life. Every minute count. The minutes are more important than years. I mean, it is not, oh, I have been on this spiritual path for so many years. No, doesn't matter how long you have been there. How have you been on this, on in all these years? Has there been even any some transformation in you? If not, it's useless. Number of years is useless. So he says, make every minute count. People who put their whole concentration into working for God find they can also meditate more deeply. So when you work for God, not self, that is just as good as meditation. So Master also said that, if you can live the whole day with your, consciousness at this point between the eyebrows, you don't even have to sit down and meditate. If you can live whole day like that, 24/7, if we can keep our consciousness there at the point between the eyebrows. But we don't, right? So that is why there's this constant reminder that needs to happen. He says that the work helps your meditation, meditation helps your work in that case, when we can live like that. You need the balance. This is only meditation helps, I mean, makes you lazy. As I just said, unless we are, in samadhi, and so 24/7 we can stay in samadhi in that breathless state, that is different. But if somebody is shirking work, saying, oh, I'm meditating, but mine is actually not really there, then that's just being lazy, not wanting to do anything. And only work makes the mind more restless. So it's very important to do both. Master told Swamiji, your life will be one of service and meditation. In fact, he put service first, service and meditation. And we came on this path. For us, Swamiji is the window to Master. So what works for him works for us. We are on this journey. Uh, we are following Swamiji to Master. So service and meditation, both need to complement each other. So if our meditations are not very deep, just scan through your day. How was I? How did I do my work? Was there too much of restlessness? Was it not being calm? So correcting that will help us go deep on the path also. Okay, so Master taught us to consider any work that, as I just said, that he would make sure that nobody got into that spiritual ego that I am doing something very different. So again, another point he said, he taught us not only to offer our work moment by moment to God, but to see God acting through us. He is the real doer. I slept and dreamt I was working. I woke up and saw God was working. When I slept and dreamt, here he's talking about, this is a dream world. We are actually living the God dreamt us, and in that dream we are like, we feel we are here, and I am doing this work. So he says, I woke up, which is, when you wake up and you realize, oh, you aren't just this, this body, but I'm a image of God. And I saw God was working. God works. The more we live like that, God is working. And we had discussed about this brother Lawrence, who wrote about this practicing the presence of God, where he would say that, if he's typing, then it's God moving his hand. If he's eating, it's God who's moving his hand to eat. Everything that he was doing, to the extent that finally it so happened that God was moving him. Jesus was moving him. He was a monk. He was a Christian monk. And the more he kept practicing that, it has started happening that way. So it is a constant reminder of that. The more we live in that consciousness, God is a doer. The spiritual journey is all about transcending the ego. The more we are able to live with that God is doing through me, we are able to, cut that ego saying, oh, I am doing it. I have done this. So, it's very important to remember at all times. As he says that, if God really, when Swamiji says that I actually tried once, when in a talk I stopped talking and everybody else got worried that he's probably frozen. But he said, it was a little experiment I was doing that, okay, if you are the doer, come on, speak through me. Come on. He says, God didn't speak. Then I realized, that shows that God needs a channel. But the more we are in tune with that flow of God, that energy of God, or that inspiration of God flowing through us, the more we will be able to channelize it more perfectly. He says, his was simply the inspiration for my words. My job was to draw on that inspiration. And the more we live in like that, okay, what does God, when we are talking of God, Guru, it's like, interchangeable, right? It's the same. Guru is the purest channel. So the more we say, we will live, as we do our work, as we are, talking, as we are interacting with people, every aspect, if we draw on that, God, what do you want me to do in this situation? What do you want me to say in that? The more we start drawing it, we become a channel for that inspiration to flow through us. And we will notice the difference. People will notice the difference. So he says, to see God as a doer then means recognizing that it is by his energy and inspiration that we live. It's like this, if you can give that example. I'm using this pen to write. So if this pen then says, I'm writing, who is writing? This hand that is moving this pen, and what the pen is writing, the inspiration is flowing through this mind that is making, those words being written on that. We have to remember that I'm just being this pen that is being used by God to make that necessary, I don't know if this makes any sense. I thought that's a good allegory to use. That we are just, it's just that we are more conscious than this inert pen. So then everything else comes in saying, I'm doing it, I am writing, I have all these ideas, So the more we are able to live that, it's just, I'm just a channel. Just this, God is using me to do. The inspiration is His, energy is His, and it's just flowing through me. So he says, Master instructed me to pray to God and Gurus before every lecture. That we always do, right? Every time we start this, any session, anything, uh, it's good to invoke God and Guru's presence. The moment we do that, there is a shift that happens. And so it shouldn't be also that when we pray, it shouldn't be just, a mechanical or Heavenly Father, Divine Mother. Connect. Every word that you're saying, Heavenly Father, connect with that aspect of God. Divine Mother, connect with that aspect of God. Do it very consciously. And then you will find that, the inspiration flows. They are there, inspiring us, guiding us. So, and ask them to use me as their instrument, and that I might express. So, when we serve, also is very important that just we don't go to the center and just start getting busy. Pause, pray. That that may I, whatever seva I'm doing today, may it be you flowing through me. That it inspires others or it helps others. That I'm able to serve others and see God in others. Very important, all these points. So, and Swamiji says, after working some months on developing it, or humility, I awoke one morning to the realization that I was becoming proud of my humility. Again, these are, the work of delusion, Maya. So immediately the ego comes and says, oh, see, I'm so humble. I am becoming so humble. And he also says later once that once I was developing devotions, master told him to chant because he was very intellectual and he started, becoming more devotional. He started feeling very proud of his being devotion. Happens on the path to all of us. These are things that Swamiji has given, will happen to anyone. Be careful. Because as he says, I started feeling proud in working to develop devotion. I discovered I was becoming pleased with myself for feeling it. Master's comment, if you love yourself, how can you love God? You're bringing yourself into the picture. How can you love God? So he says the real secret to humility, I came to realize, is self-honesty. To see everything in the right proportion. Sister Gyan Mata, she says when somebody praised her that, you have done so, No, rather saying, oh, feeling very proud. Immediately she said, it's the nature of a fig tree to bear fig. That's all. The moment you separate yourself and it is, give credit to God, immediately we are able to cut that ego that is trying to sprout again. Her words reveal the humility of perfect detachment, that is to say, again, complete self honesty. Again, Master always said in his effort to break us of half-hearted willingness, which he called one horsepower energy. He urged us always to keep a positive outlook, to affirm possibilities rather than weaken them with too many so-called reasonable objections. Always positive affirmations. Even if, but again, that doesn't mean that, we be delusional saying, oh, no, this is great, everything is fine. You accept self-honesty is also important. The limitations accept, but not get caught up with that. Then, work towards the achieving those positive qualities. So always affirming positive, that is the where we have to look at, not where we are or not going down further. So again, the next 2 pages is talking about not having moods. When Walter, he says, how are you? The moment Swamiji says, well, he says, well, very good. And he went away. He didn't allow him to wallow in his moods. He said, I suffer when you have moods. For then I see the Satan gets hold of you. Very important for us to understand. When Dayamata Faye says that Master wouldn't even allow us to be around him when we had moods. So let's understand that if we get into moods, we will not feel Master's presence around us. He will not be there. What do we choose? Who do we choose to be around? Satan or mood? So the moment we find we are getting into the moods, good to start working to, uplift ourselves. Where Swamiji also says that one day he got into that, Master doesn't care. And once the mind starts, churning, it starts going into that whirlpool. It's very difficult to pull out just by reasoning. Oh, no. Because again, he says reason's tendency is to support any feeling that happens to be uppermost in the mind. Feeling is of the heart. What did Patanjali said yoga is chitta vritti nirodh. It all starts heart's feeling. So yoga is the vritti, this whirlpool of chitta. Chitta is where the heart's feelings are, right? And when that is settled, that neutralization of heart's feeling is yoga. So, and reason follows heart. If I like something, I will reason, even that person, or I like somebody, then even if that person is doing something wrong, I can reason it out, saying, oh, no, he's into. And if I don't like something or somebody, then I can reason again in the way that, even if that person's intention was good, I will say, or I can bring up all kinds of things saying he's wrong, right? The reason follows feeling. So this is the most important point. We catch it there. The feeling part is all what is important. So how Swamiji, he would treat himself like, he would always step aside and is like talking to his mental soldiers or the inhabitants of the mind. He said, do you like being moody? He says, chorus came, no. Very well, boys. If reason won't do it, let's see if changing our level of consciousness will do the thing. So what did he do? He went, meditated, what kept us. This is the seat of super consciousness. The more, that is why I said, if the more we are able to live with our consciousness here, we will live in an uplifted state, right? So the moment he says 5 minutes and it shifted. What else can we do to shift our consciousness when, anytime we are feeling low, oh me, poor me, anytime we get into that state, something happens and then, that shift it goes down. What the more we live, as I said, Swamiji gave a lot of things like, super conscious living exercises that he has given. Amazing. It hardly takes 5 minutes, immediately shifts. Or Swamiji said, just lift your hands, look up and smile. Immediately you will find that, there is a shift, because you can't look up and say, I'm feeling so sad. So this is like, the hands, the movement, these are very powerful, very magnets. The hands are magnets. You bring it up, It is like, bringing up the energy. You're moving it up, chanting, affirmations. There's so many things that listening to Swamiji's master's chants, talks, Swamiji's music. I mean, you walk. I have always seen that, whenever Dhyanaji is working, in the background, there will always be this mild Swamiji's some music, instrumental that will be playing. It immediately, the moment you enter the room, it shifts. It shifts your consciousness. Or just keeping Swamiji's Om going at the background, there is no chance of the consciousness falling down. And as Swamiji is writing, it is all about consciousness. Where are we placing the consciousness, right? What channel are we tuning into? And here in autobiography, Master says, thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. We don't create those thoughts. Based on where our consciousness is, we draw it. It's like, they're all, it's like the ocean flowing around us. If I am in a low state, I draw on those thoughts that are negative. I'll draw on people who are very negative. We draw it, we magnetize those thoughts, we magnetize those people to ourselves. Shift it is what Swamiji is saying, Master is saying. Shift your moods, shift your consciousness. The moment we shift, we are in that uplift. We can't be moody at all. So Master says, somebody asked, why does somebody, are we way above time here? Just a little bit more. So Master said that moods are because in the past, can be this lifetime or some previous lifetime also, where, one overindulgence in sense pleasures and consequent over satiety and disgust for what we are, indulging in. And we need not be in that state. He says, the more we stay there, we keep giving in energy to that we will keep, the senses will take over and keep pulling us back in. So he says, cut it there. You stop giving energy to it, the senses are unable to, keep that pendulum going. So immediately it is cut. Okay, so and he's talking about, his not being able to meditate. Um, and then once he's talking about he was putting in too much effort, that he thought, just a little bit more, and then I will reach that state of superconscious, where he said, I felt exhausted. And after that, it was very difficult. So that is the reason he started even falling asleep, because mind was not ready to get into all that. So it's also important that meditation, you meditate till you're feeling joy. Otherwise, it gets too much. And he also asked Master, why I'm not getting into those, deeper state? Am I not doing enough? Master said, it's because you're doing too much. By effort, you can never meditate. It's more in relaxation. That meditation is relaxation, right? But it can't be that subconscious relaxation. Then we will fall asleep. The more you are in, you're concentrated at the point between the eyebrows, and we are in superconscious relaxation, is where the meditation happens. Okay, so then he says, even then he says, I used to feel all once in a while those joy, but it was not continuous. So that is why he says, Master said, keep on with your devotion. See how dry your life is when you depend on intellect. Devotion is, as Master said, is half the battle. How? Chanting is half the battle. We have to develop devotion. Even if, we feel, oh, I'm not a devotional kind of person. But, Swami Sri Yukteswar said that you can't put one step forward on the spiritual path without the natural love of the heart. And how can we unfold that? The devotion is through chanting. Half the battle, Master said. Half the battle. Okay. So, and this is also very important. He said, his help, Master's help is available to anyone who called to him mentally in meditation. Remember to call on to Master to help. Any spiritual, blockages we are feeling, ask for his help. I'm like this. I'm not able to meditate. I am not feeling devotion. Help me. He is there to help. He is there to guide us. He is there to inspire us according to the measure of our receptivity. Please understand this. It's like, we are the children in the classroom. The teacher is giving to everyone, right? Who will get more? The child who is concentrated on what the teacher is saying. The backbenchers who are busy talking and throwing paper balls on each other, they are not going to get it. It's not that teacher didn't give. It's because they were not receptive to what the teacher. So this is very important. It depends on our receptivity to make the right kind of spiritual effort. Sometimes too, when we met him, so he is constantly giving, he's constantly teaching us, he's constantly guiding us. We aren't there to receive because we are busy thinking, various thoughts that of this world that engage us all the time. Master says, I go through your souls every day. When he's telling that, it's not just to those monks he has told, all his disciples. I go through your souls every day. If I see something in you that needs correcting, I tell you about it. Otherwise, I say nothing. Then he says many times, I go so deep into a person that at night and when I wake up, I think I'm that person. It can be a terrible experience, he says, if he is someone full of moods and desires. So we need to be very careful. We want Master to be there with us. So we have to avoid being moody and be caught up with all the desires of this world. How can he help us? How can he be there with us? As Master one lady once asked him, why don't I feel you like how others feel you in their meditation? He said, if you keep your cup turned upside down, how can I come? So, we have to turn it up and then expand it. Be receptive. If the cup is only this much, we will only receive this much. If it is bigger, he is constantly pouring. We have to receive, right? So again, the next point where this lady says that, about her taking alcohol, Master knows it all. There's nothing to avoid. I mean, there's nothing that he is not going to find out. So there's nowhere, I mean, even Master Swamiji said, if somebody has any addiction of, say, cigarette or something, share with Master. There's nothing, you can't hide from him. Share with him. It will automatically fall because you don't want to share all that with him. You might as well leave it. So these are the very useful things. And he says that, oh, Boone told me, he says, that he had that ecstasy. He would pray to him. And he had that feeling where he says, even during his work time, he was so he was in ecstasy that he told Master, take it away because I'm afraid I'll hurt myself. I don't even feel my body. And then Swamiji said, oh, that's nice. So that was for Boone. And Swamiji said, oh, that's nice. Let me also do that. And he started doing it. But what was his intention? What was his attitude? Again, we are back to attitude. His attitude was experience. That's why Master said, what mischief are you up to, Walter? Because again, and he said, don't seek experience in meditation. The path to God is not a circus. I want to see this. I want to, experience. Oh, that person feels like that. I should also. So it is not, don't keep any benchmark or targets. We are so used to keeping targets. The more we offer ourselves in love and devotion to God rather than what He can give us, the more freer we will be, right? So, like how this person, Reverend Michael, he says he would often repeat, I love you, Guru. And Master, once he came close to me, he said, I love you too. And when Swamiji was feeling he was missing Master, Master said, I have been missing you, Walter. I mean, these are such beautiful things. Master misses us. Master loves us all the time. Are we loving him? Rather than expecting what can he give me, this experience, that experience, in meditation, this, in my everyday life, what can I give God, Master? As Master said that, what can you give God what he doesn't have? He said that if that money, dollar, he's already that. What can you give? What God doesn't have is your love. That's the only thing. Our indifference is what he can't take. So the more we open ourselves in love, God, he is there. He is responding. We will feel it. We will realize it. We will get it. So, so rather than meditate with him, in your meditation, bring Master into it. As if you're sitting in the Master's body, or he's sitting in a diminutive form on our head, or he's sitting beside you, is doing kriya through you, or when you are astral spine, see his astral spine that you're working on. Hard work was as important in our way of life as regular meditation. As I said, you must be intensely active for God before you can attain the actionless state of union with Him. Without love for God, he says, no one can find him. Love God, that's all that matters. Like how he once, one interviewer came and asked, he was asking various questions, and Master said, love God. Then he asked another question, he said, love God. He kept asking, he said, love God, and then Master said, love God, and he got up and went away. And that man went on to, he became some guru, so-called guru, and he said, oh, Paramahansa Yogananda, he didn't know anything. He just said, he kept saying, love God. He didn't get the point. That is all that matters on the spiritual path. Love God. And like it's a beautiful chant of Sri Ram Prasad. We have sung it last a couple of classes before also. Love God. That is all that matters. Where Swamiji nightly he says, I used to chant this, and gradually I found myself being transformed inwardly. And when he started to self-congratulate, he said, I heard somebody telling me that Master said, look how high I have changed, Walter. Remember, whatever, if our meditations are deep, if our meditations are not so deep, everything is given by, it's given by the Master. By deeper, longer, thirsty, guru given meditation comes the samadhi. Any transformation that happens, it's guru who transforms us. This, if we are able to remember that, the self congratulation or the ego feeling, oh, I have transformed, I have moved, I have been on the spiritual path for so long, all that, will be taken, because otherwise we will have to learn lessons to get out of that state. So the more we live, that's the God the doer, Guru the good doer. Guru is giving us. The more there is an attitude shift in everything that we do. There will be we will progress towards our journey to God. I think I've taken a lot of time today. Thank you for joining. We will.
Thanks, Jyoti. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye.